Hello, friends. I hope you are doing well. Um, I want to talk to you about one key component of culture, and that is language. And one of the things you're going to have to think about for your civilization is what kind of language you're going to use and what's it going to look like. And so I want to talk about the four different languages that the river civilizations had. So you should have a handout that looks like this, but the difference is you're going to have blanks in this section here where I just have um, the answers. So I think you should begin by maybe pressing pause and decoding this secret message in our first language, which is the language of ancient Egypt. Okay. I'm not going to tell you the answer to that decoder puzzle. Hopefully, you'll be able to figure it out. I am going to tell you a little bit about Egypt's language, however. Ancient Egypt's language was called hieroglyphics. It consisted of 1,000 characters, and each symbol represented a particular sound. Okay, and that'll actually be different than some of the other languages we'll look at. Okay. This writing could actually be written in many directions, from left to right, from right to left, up and down, which could make it difficult to read. And for a long time, scholars couldn't read it. And then they discovered something called the Rosetta Stone. The Rosetta Stone had hieroglyphics and several other languages on it. Well, two other languages on it. And what that did was it allowed scholars to translate hieroglyphics. And then after that, they were able to figure out how hieroglyphics worked. So you can see over here some examples of hieroglyphics. We saw them a lot already when we've looked at different uh, tomb paintings. So this is, I mean, I'm sure you've heard of hieroglyphics before now as well. It's pretty famous. So that's Egypt's language. Hello, friends. Let's talk about our next civilization's language, and that civilization is Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia had the very first written language that we know of, and it was called cuneiform. Cuneiform was written by pressing into a clay tablet with what's called a stylus, which is essentially a stick design for the purpose. It was first used for business records, okay, and then it kind of morphed into a language for all uses. You can see right there that it's pretty complex. Each of the different symbols has a lot of parts to it, and so people who could read and write it back in Mesopotamia were actually pretty well respected in society. They were called scribes. So there is a message there that you guys can decode. There's this random um, blank on mine. Don't worry about it. Okay, just ignore that. Okay, so that is Mesopotamia. And the secret message tells you a little bit more about the language, but that's the deal. Hello, friends. Let's talk about our next language, and that's the language of the Indus Valley. The writing of the Indus Valley was called Sanskrit. Sanskrit started as a verbal language or a spoken language, but eventually it became written. It is the root of many South Asian languages, even though it's not spoken today. Most of the early Hindu religious writings were in Sanskrit. So it is still really studied extensively in today's world, and a really important language for religions that originated in this part of the world. So you can see an example to the right there taken from very early Hindu religious writings. Awesome. That is the Indus Valley language of Sanskrit. Last, let's talk about the language found in China. China's written language began during the Shang Dynasty. Okay, it began as what are called pictographs. If you look in the picture to the left, you can see them. basically the symbols kind of represent what they're trying, or look like what they're trying to represent. So like the water kind of looks like water. A field kind of looks like a field. I don't know about the goat and the sheep, but you guys can decide what you think about that. The praying looks like a person kind of praying. So you can see that the way it originated was, let's draw a picture that kind of looks like what it's supposed to be. Okay. Then when you start doing that, you get a lot of symbols. And the writing of Shang China had over 3,000 symbols to express words or ideas. The fact is that the Chinese symbols of today really kind of, you can see in this chart, look like a lot of those original symbols. Okay, so though it's changed, it did originate during this river civilization time. So those are all 4 of the languages. Hopefully you'll notice some similarities. For instance, most of them had a lot of symbols, right? Many of them originated and used in business. Some of them were based on pictographs that were written to look like what they represented. Okay, all were very important to the development of culture in river civilizations. Hopefully you filled in all of those words and done all the puzzles, and awesome. Be sure to turn it on Canvas.